My name is Rita Rosenbach. I am the author of the book Bringing Up a Bilingual Child. I'm also the founder of the website Multilingual Parenting, as well as the founder of this group, Facebook group Multilingual Parenting, and the page that you're on at the moment. I'm happy you could join us. Welcome. Today I will be answering quite a few questions that have been sent in advance. I have seven here that I have received already. If there are any further questions in the I will pick those up too. Today I will answer questions from, in the order I give the names here now. There's a question from Claire, Paveen, Shelin, Dominic, Nihal, Maria, and Yamila. Sorry if I pronounced any of those names wrong. I will, if you have any questions, if you're live, you have any questions, you can put them in the comments, and I will pick up those at the end of the session. In addition to doing these sessions, writing a book and written a book, and I'm writing a book at the moment. I'm in the final draft stage. I also do individual family language coaching, where I work with families to create a family language plan for them to pass on languages to their children. So let's start with Claire's question. She is Franco-American. English is her mother tongue. Lives in France with a French husband, and husband has got children from previous marriage, which are 11 and 8, which speak only French. Claire, you do not mention if your husband speaks English. That would be a good thing to know whether that's the case. Claire and her husband are having a baby soon. Congratulations, fantastic news. And Claire feels very strongly about passing along English to the baby, which is understandable because English is Claire's mother tongue. And now her stepchildren stay with them every other week, so share their everyday life. And she is concerned about how to pass on the English without disrupting the dynamic in the family. So Claire writes, if I speak English to the baby but French to the children, I'm afraid it will turn into French for everyone. And also a follow-up question, what strategies are the best to make sure that all the children get to a proficient level in English? Okay, my first advice is to discuss this with your husband. Make sure that you're on the same page, that he also wants your baby to become bilingual, and that he also would like his children from his previous marriage to learn English. It is extremely important that you are agreed upon this, because otherwise it will be very difficult for you to manage to do this on your own. And once you are agreed, then, because your stepchildren are already 8 and 11, you can discuss with them, bring them in, explain the situation, speak about the languages and the benefits and the richness of having more than one language brings with it. And you will know your children best. Speak about the topic in a way so they get interested in English as well. And I would recommend that you do speak English only with the baby, because you live in France, and so you will be the main and for a while the only exposure to English that your child will have. So what you can do is to, on those weeks when your stepchildren are there, whenever necessary, translate what you say to the baby to your children. So make sure that they they get involved. I presume they have, or you did mention that they have some English knowledge, just stepchildren, which means that they will be able to follow a lot of basic discussions that that you will have with the baby. So, and then once you've got the English more into the family, what you can do is to try to introduce, for example, English only days. So on a Sunday that you all speak English together. This, of course, depends on you didn't, as I said, you didn't mention if you how what level your husband speaks English on. If he also can switch to English on certain days, then you would all have a common language. So start with a part of a day or a whole day, depending on how it goes, and then from there on introduce English more into the family. Because your next question about how to make sure that all the children get to a proficient level in English, they will need a lot of, if the exposure only comes from your family, so they do not get any exposure from anywhere else. I presume that every other week they are in 100% French environment. Then you would need to make sure that you get English to a level where it is the default language within the family, because that's as much that's how much exposure they would need to it. So if they learn English at school as well, that of course will help. And maybe if they're interested, it's up to you to make it enticing and interesting. Then you can come up with some other, for example, if there are groups, some activities or anything that they can do in English, that's another thing you can do. If you have any other questions, Claire, then just add them in the comments. Hi, Rashida, thank you. I will pick up your question at the end of the session. Next question I have here is from Paveen. She has a bilingual 5-year-old, and she is considering putting her child in a third language school, and the school would be in Arabic. And Paveen's question is, how long will it take for the child to acquire the language? It's a full immersion school, so her child would be hearing only Arabic in the school. At home, Paveen speaks English and husband speaks French. My first question is, would be, do you or your husband know Arabic? I'm asking because if your child is learning a completely new language, so you wouldn't be understanding what the child is learning at school, then there are other considerations. But I'm presuming at least you know also Arabic. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can tell you about our experience. My daughter was 6 when we moved here to the UK. At that point, she knew Punjabi and Swedish. She didn't know any English and went straight into an English-speaking school. For her, it took about 3 weeks before she started to understand what was going on, and she could pick up. So she could tell me, I could determine from the fact that after about 3 weeks, she was able to tell me what happened at school. Before that, it was kind of not very sure. And then it took about 3 months when the teacher said that she has started to use the language. So it took her 3 months to start to say something. To keep in mind is that children are very different, and the pace at which they learn is different. It also depends how much encouragement they get. My daughter's school was very supportive, so she felt she always felt happy to go there, and she felt free to learn and to express herself. So all these things play in. So don't presume that what happened to my daughter will necessarily happen to your child. But usually when children are fully immersed in a language, they do pick it up immensely quickly. I would recommend that you speak with the school in advance. Find out if they're used to dealing with children who do not yet know Arabic, because that's important. Do they always already have procedures and processes what they do to help children that learn Arabic for the first time? Make sure you, if possible, go with your child to start with, so you can see the interaction and how your child feels. But I think it should be fine, and as long as you can also support your child with Arabic, it will be okay. If you have any other questions, Parveen, please do add them in the comments. The next question comes from Sherlyn, who is a Filipino living in Macau. And at the home, they speak English, Filipino, and another dialect. And her son, who will be 1 year and 4 months at the point he will go to daycare. Shalin is wondering which daycare to choose. She can choose between an English-speaking or a Cantonese-speaking one. And the Cantonese-speaking one is the preferred option because Sherlyn and husband would like their son to learn Cantonese. Their problem is that Sherlyn or husband, they do not speak Cantonese. So Sherlyn's question is, will it confuse our son if we send him to a Cantonese-speaking center? Children do not get confused by languages. Even if they hear many languages, they do not get confused. If they mix languages, it's just part of their multilingual language development. It's not a cause of confusion. In your case, though, Sherlyn, who might get confused is you and your husband if you do not know any Cantonese at all. Depending on how long your son stays at the daycare per day, it might be that his Cantonese develops very quickly, and it might even become his strongest language. And so my question will be, are you planning to learn Cantonese as well? Because my recommendation would be that, yes, please do. It is important that you also can communicate in the language that might become your son's strongest language. Because you need to be able to support him through schools, and if it's a single language Cantonese school, you will have no options to do this. So do I think he will be confused? No, I don't. I think he can learn Filipino and English at home, presuming he gets enough interactive exposure to both of the languages. But it might be more difficult for you. So that's what you need to take into consideration when you make your decision. That was Sherlyn's question, and now I've got Dominique's question. Dominique and his wife or his partner, they are German, living in the Netherlands. They speak German at home, and they're expecting first child in January. Congratulations, fantastic news. And the plan is for the baby to go to Dutch daycare at the age of 5 months. And Dominique is wondering whether they should look for a bilingual daycare, English-Dutch, or a monolingual one. The thing is that Dominic, the family is not planning to stay in the Netherlands, will probably move after 3 to 5 years, although it's not clear yet where they are moving. And the question is there any point that the child learns Dutch? There's always a point with every single language you learn. You will benefit for every language you learn. So if you do have access to bilingual daycare, I would recommend that you seriously consider that. Dominic, you're asking, will it do more harm to his speech development to be learning 2 languages? No, I do not think so. Yes, on average, children that grow up with 3 or 4 languages take a bit longer to build up their vocabularies, because that's just common sense. They have less exposure time to each of the languages, so it will take longer before they learn all the words and phrases, while a monolingual child concentrates on one language only and all the exposure is in one language. Of course, that vocabulary building goes faster. But this is nothing to worry about. Research has shown that if you take all languages into consideration, so count all the vocabulary across the language spectrum that a child has, then there is no real difference. And at the age of latest 4 to 5, a child, multilingual, bilingual or trilingual and so on child does catch up with monolingual children. So for that reason, there is no reason to avoid going to a bilingual daycare. I would also expect that a bilingual daycare will be well equipped at teaching both languages to a child. So I would go for the bilingual one. And also in the Netherlands, there are a lot of people from other countries. You will find like children's play groups and other activities that your child can do in English if you want to add to the exposure. If you have any other questions, Dominique, please ask. As I said to others, just add in the comments. And next I have a question from Nihal, who has a son who's almost 3 years old, and they speak Arabic at home. The environment is English, and her son has been going to childcare for almost a year. Nihal is concerned because with about 3 years he is not saying any full sentences, using words, and he understands well, but he's not saying any sentences. Her son has also been diagnosed as having speech delay by a therapist. However, after asking about this from Nihal in advance, he was only assessed in English, and his Arabic knowledge was not taken into account at all. Bilingual children should be assessed in both languages. I understand this is not always possible, but if that's not possible, then a good speech and language therapist will ask the parents about the child's understanding in the home language and about their vocabulary, so they can get an assessment of how well they speak that language, because that is part of their language knowledge. Since you live in an English environment and the daycare is in English, your son will pick up the English from there. And you say that you know that he understands well. The important thing is keep a track of, for example, which words he knows in Arabic at home. If you see a progress, that is a real good sign. that he doesn't say sentences yet. That may come one day, might have already come. I have my own daughter, but again, children are so different. My older daughter was very early, used sentences very early. My younger daughter waited until she was three and a half. So, and they're both multilingual now, adult multilinguals. If you are concerned, keep in mind that if a child has any speech and language related issue, the child will have it in all the languages, not only in one language. If you are truly concerned, then I would revisit but a different therapist, and make sure that that therapist is used to dealing with bilingual children. You asked about how you can teach him English sentences. Well, my honest opinion is that you do not have to teach him English sentences. It's better that you stick to Arabic, because research has shown that a child that's got a strong home language, no matter which language it is, also picks up the school language a lot quicker. For example, if a child who understands abstract concepts in the home language can transfer that understanding to another language. And also, you mentioned it yourself, that you are not a fluent English speaker and you feel hesitant about this. If you do want to help him with the English, then what I would recommend you do is that you read books. So you read books to him in English, but anything you speak and do, stick to Arabic, because that's your mother tongue and that's what you are strong in. And that's I want you to have confidence that that it's a good thing that you're speaking Arabic with your son, and that and if there is an issue, then it needs to be tackled on all levels. It also needs to be tackled in Arabic. So, as I said, do revisit a speech and language therapist, but find a good one who understands bilingual language development, because clearly your first one didn't, because otherwise they wouldn't have just given a speech delay diagnosis without understanding anything about his Arabic knowledge. Good luck to you, Nihal, and if you have any other questions, I know you're not able to watch this live. If you have any other questions, then just add them in the comments and I pick them up later. Okay, I have two more questions that have been sent in to me. First I have Maria's question. Maria and her family live in England. She speaks Spanish to their daughter, and her partner speaks Norwegian. Fantastic! You've got a trilingual in the making there. And your daughter goes to nursery in English, and mom and dad also speak English together. So there's quite a lot of English exposure for the child. And Maria's question is, first of all, that the child is 19-month-old, by the way, my 19-month-old daughter, that she mixes languages. That's completely normal. Children of that age learning more than language will mix their languages. It will take a while before they can separate their languages. When they start learning the different languages, they will just pick the first word they know for a thing. And that's just how they do it. They're very pragmatic. I know this thing is called this, I'll use that word. So that's nothing to worry about. And then Maria's question is how she should react when she's reading a book and her daughter says a word in, let's say she is speaking Spanish and then daughter says it in Norwegian or English, how should she react? Should she correct or should she say the Spanish word? And Maria's worry is that her daughter would feel like she's being corrected, that it's wrong what she's saying. It's a very good question, Maria. And like I already commented on your question on the page, I would there is a nice way to handle this. I would recommend that you stick to Spanish. It is extremely important that you stick to Spanish as much as possible with her, because you are in a position where there are two minority languages, Spanish and Norwegian, competing about the exposure time with English, because your daughter will get English at nursery, and also when you and your husband speak, you speak English. So in the less exposure there is to a language, the more important it is to stay consistent. I've never been one to say that you should always 100% be consistent. That's not how it works in a multilingual family. But it is true that the less exposure there is to a language, the bigger the importance is to be consistent. So when your daughter, let's say she uses a Norwegian word for something, then you can just confirm and say, yes, that's what daddy says. So you confirm, say, well done. So you confirm that she's using the right word, you praise her for it, and then you can say, and mommy says this. And all this in Spanish. The same if she uses an English word and say, yes, that's the word they use at nursery. Well done, you've learnt it. And this is what mommy says. Then you kind of, you achieve the everything that you need. You are confirming that your child, to your daughter, that she's saying the right thing. You're praising her for it, and you're teaching her the word for Spanish, and you're still sticking to your language. So that's how I would do it. And we should we should never make children feel bad about any of their languages, even if they come and speak the so-called wrong language with us. Find a way of still being, especially with small children, be proud and be happy about that they're learning, and then speak about it more in your own language to bring in the right vocabulary for your language. Again, Maria, if you have any further questions, just add to the comments. And the last one of the previously sent in questions has come from Yamila, who started off in her family speaking Spanish. I presume the other language is English. But however, because of things that happened, she was forced to give up speaking Spanish, and so her children, who are 7 years and older, have grown up to speak English only. And she has now tried to reintroduce Spanish, and she says that children are not very happy, especially the youngest child. This is also a situation I've been through myself with my older daughter when I tried to switch from, or when I did switch from speaking Finnish to speaking Swedish. If you want to read about my experience, go to the site multilingualparenting.com, and in the search box type in kitten, because I needed the help from a Swedish speaking kitten to get my 5-year-old to agree to speak Swedish. I'm not telling you that you need to take a pet, but the thing is, what you do need to do is to make Spanish interesting, enticing for your children. Find different ways of motivating them, especially with your 7-year-old who is not keen on learning Spanish. Find something that you can do together, but that you do in Spanish, or some other activity where she can take part and it's in Spanish only. You ask about saying the same sentence both in Spanish and English, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I know there are even parents who've done this from the very start. It's not it's not an approach I necessarily recommend to start with, because it's very time consuming. It's not a natural way to speak, but I know it's been done and it's been successful. But now at the age of 7, it's perfectly fine. Say something in Spanish, and if you notice that your daughter doesn't understand, then give the relevant words or the sentence in English to her. So yes, for the transition period, by all means, use English to ease the change from speaking English to speaking Spanish, and find interesting things to do. Just think about what your daughter is really interested in, and then think about a way how you can make that Spanish only. So those were my questions that I had been sent in before. I will now pick up any questions from the hi Maria, thank you. There's Rashida's question. I hope you're still online, Rashida. So your children's father can understand your mother tongue but cannot speak it very well. His family understands it but do not speak it. And so you're asking, shall I encourage him to speak it to the children too, even if it isn't very good, as my children's mother tongue fluency is slowly deteriorating since starting school? So Rashida, if you're still there, right, so your children go to English speaking school and he speaks English with them. So it's a question about passing on your mother tongue, which your husband is not, you feel that he's not as fluent in it. Is my understanding. Hi, Rashida. So just comment if I'm understanding your question correctly, that you would like to pass on your mother tongue. Do you mind sharing with us which language it is? And I presume you are fluent in it, but your husband is not, and your husband is speaking English with your children, and you're asking if you should try to get him to speak the language as well. The best way, if possible, to raise a bilingual child is to use the so-called minority language at home approach. Minority language at home approach, where the whole family speaks a minority language. So based on that, my answer would be yes, if he is fine with it. With adults, with adults, it's not as easy to get them to change the language. It's not easy with children either, but it's even more difficult with adults. So it's something you need to have that discussion with. But it does not matter that he's not fluent in it, because you are fluent. The children will instinctively know that you are the native speaker, and you will be the language role model. If he can also join in the discussion, even if his language is not of a native level, it doesn't matter. The more important thing is that there will be more of your language in the home. So if your husband is okay with switching from English to your mother tongue, then I would recommend that. It might be difficult to switch from one day to another. So maybe you can start by doing, let's say, weekends in your language, and during those hectic weekdays when you need to get ready and go somewhere, if he then feels that it's too difficult for him to use your language, then maybe you can say, right, okay, we can speak English during the week, but during the weekend, let's all speak your language. So that would be my recommendation. How does that sound, Rashida? Do you think that would work? But to your question, will it hinder them that his language is not fluent? No, it won't, because they will get their fluency from you as the native speaker. So that will be perfectly fine. Okay, that's great. I hope I hope it works out and your husband is happy with it. I would check in with him now and then, so he's still happy to do it, and see how it goes when you do the first whole day. Just to keep an eye on how it goes, and like with children, give him a lot of praise for trying and speaking your language, and that will also encourage him. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much for joining. If you haven't already done so, please do join my Facebook group, multilingualparenting.com, and keep those questions coming in. And most of all, keep speaking your languages. Thank you and goodbye.